I think we'll get started and anyone can join us at any time. I'll call the Infrastructure, Transportation and Safety Subcommittee to order. Welcome everyone. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof? Seeing none, item number 3 is delegations and there aren't any scheduled. So we'll move on to item number 4, and that's a report of the Manager of Environmental Services. And item 4.1 is water, sanitary and storm service ownership policies and subsidy programs. And there are a number of different policies and programs that were circulated. And Mr. Bowes, did you want to sort of, go over the sort of the purpose of this and a quick sort of overview of the highlights of it, and then we'll open it up for questions.
Yes, of course. First off, I apologize for submitting such a big package all at once, but I figured it was probably best to just kind of do it all in one shot and get everything covered. So just a quick background, as far as service ownership for water and wastewater servicing to residential and commercial properties, it's often misunderstood by residents. Coming from Halton region, I know that this was an issue there too. Homeowners aren't exactly clear what's theirs, what's not theirs, what's the city's, what's not the city's, that sort of thing. Stratford currently doesn't have a policy that really clearly outlines the ownership and responsibility details. So these policies, I feel, need to be put in place mainly so that internally the staff can deliver a consistent message to residents, because we do get a lot of inquiries, people not sure if they own the box that's sticking up in their front yard, the water box, or if they've got a leak, if it's their responsibility to fix it, depending on where it is. So I think by clearly identifying the ownership of the water and wastewater servicing, using these policies and the visual aids that I put within the policies, I think we'll be able to give a very consistent message when these inquiries do come in. So that covers the first 3 policies that were introduced. The other ones are in reference to the subsidy program. So the city currently has a subsidy program in one form or has had one in a form or another since 2001. And the updates that are in these policies will bring the programs basically up to date to reflect the current construction costs, alternative technologies that didn't exist the last time these policies were put in place. For example, cured in place lining, which is very common now, and it's actually the most recommended way to rehabilitate a wastewater service. So the updated subsidy policies basically provide clarification of the eligibility, updated cost sharing configurations, because there's a few different combinations that could exist. And yeah, so that's a general rundown. And I also spoke with the city's communication lead, Mike Bites, this morning in regards to these policies that I'm putting forward. And we were speaking, and he thought it'd be a great idea that if these are passed by council, that the visual aids and a summary of these kind of service ownership details get put on the city website, because we could eliminate a lot of traffic coming into the clerks that way. So it's something else to look at as well.
Thank you. I was just going to suggest about some kind of a communication piece, and I really appreciate the graphics. I think they really, I mean, they say as much as the words do. So I did see Councillor Burback's hand up. Did you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the communication plan. So is the plan also, if people are going to make inquiries, then you could email them this document so they could see exactly what they're getting? I think it's really great. And maybe just as an example, in front of my house, first of all, I didn't realize that the water source thing was what it was. It's in my lawn. Around it, the land is sinking. Mm-hmm. So is that something I should be concerned about, or should I be filling that in myself? Is that something that needs to be taken care of?
We get that inquiry quite often. It could just be some settling, because there's that actual box that goes down about 6 feet to protect the pipe, or to protect the valve. So there is sometimes settling just over time as a result of that. Now, that being said, sometimes it could indicate potentially, not to cause any alarm because it's usually not the case, but a very, very small leak can sometimes cause a bit of erosion underneath. So when people do get things like that and they call us in, we usually send somebody over just to do a quick hearing test, and we can check for audible leaks using some of our hearing equipment. And 98% of the time there's not a leak, it is just settling of the soil. But by all means, if that's an issue, you'd like us it just takes a couple minutes. We just send an operator over, they do a quick check, and then they inform the homeowner.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, while you're at my place, I also didn't, I mean, reading these documents was really enlightening. I mean, I've owned a home here for over 20 years and I had no idea. First of all, I did have a sewer backup into my basement. It was the same night as the Trump debate. So I could choose to clean sewage out of my basement or watch the debate. So I thought the sewage was actually better. So anyway, that's an aside. So I just called the plumber. He snaked or did whatever, unblocked it. But I didn't realize that I should be letting you know that that happened to me or my property. And I'm also wondering about the condition of that sewer line going out. My next door neighbor is doing a complete renovation of his home and just replaced his. And they found it was crumbly. And I mean, the houses are over 100 years old. So I don't know if my sewer line is in the same condition or not. Like, how would I find that out?
Yeah, so plumbing companies do offer what's called a CCTV. It's a closed circuit television. They insert a camera. It's about the size of a snake that goes through the sewer and takes a video. It's also a service that if you were wondering about eligibility for the subsidy, the city staff will come and do a camera inspection at the homeowner's expense. And that is, I did outline that in the policy as well, just to have clarification. So basically they come, if they have access inside the home through a floor drain or something like that, or a clean out, they'll put the camera through, they'll do an inspection, record a video, they'll come back, review it. Myself or the supervisor will also sometimes take a look at it, and if they're unsure, and then sometimes they'll say, yeah, this is a great candidate for a liner. And to give a little more context on what lining is, it's a non-invasive technology where there's no open cutting, there's no digging that's done. It's done within the home. They install basically like a sock that gets put through the sewer lateral out to the sewer main, and then it's cured in place, and then it seals, and it basically creates a brand new pipe within the old pipe. It's a super cost-effective technology that we really promote when people are considering redoing, because it also eliminates opportunity for roots to get in. And the way roots usually get into sewer laterals and sewer lines is through where the pipes connect and the different joints under the grass. So it's just it's an alternative method that is another reason why this needed to be updated, because it's such a common method now that most people didn't even know exists. So
Right. I learned a lot from this. Thank you for doing this.
yeah, no problem.
Oh, Councillor Gaffney?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you, Madam Chair. Back when we had our major flood incident, 2003, 2004, I have a recollection that as part of the study on the future application of stormwater management programs, one of the things the council talked about at the time was requiring private homeowners and landowners to disconnect any private connections from their house or buildings into the stormwater system. What, if I can ask, whatever happened with that that program, and if that program is what we are supposed to be doing, would stormwater servicing still be a thing?
Yep. No, it's there is a policy for it, and it was created, I think, in 2003, 2005-ish. Unfortunately, I didn't live here at the time. I don't have the exact year, but there is a policy in place that is separate from the ones I'm submitting. So it's called there's a downspout disconnect where there is a subsidy for homeowners to, if they have their weeping tile or their sump pump tied into their sanitary line. The difficult thing about those programs is a lot of homeowners just don't know that they have that cross connection until something happens. But there are a lot of proactive homeowners that are aware of that program, and there is actually a spot on the city website for that specific subsidy. Again, it's very, it's not vague, but there's not a lot of detail there. Again, there's no visuals. So that's probably another thing that I'll work with Mike Bites to update as well, to kind of bring it back into the public's perspective.
Okay, good, thank you. And I'll move the staff recommendation, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. I was just going to ask, how do new homeowners that weren't here at that time find out about that disconnecting the downspouts? I'm sure there are a lot of people that don't know, so that's another good communication piece. Thank you. I did have a quick question before we vote. You're not able to do the lining in place if there's people who share a service. Is that because it has to be linear and there's no way of actually making the soft do like a joining piece, like a Y? Is that the idea?
Exactly. Yeah. It can only do one direct pipe. So, but then again, if homes are supposed to be individually serviced, if possible. So there is wording, I believe, in one of those, and it's a pre-existing policy where the city will run a separate line for the homeowner to make sure people have their own individual services. But
so it's just there for any that may be left over from that are sort of grandfathered in.
Yeah. So so Y connections, not as common as they were at one time. So yeah.
Great, thank you so much. So I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed, if any, and that's carried. Thank you so much. And then we'll move on to item number 5. Thank you very much,
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Report of the city clerk, item number 5, and it's 5.1. It's renewal of the town of Goderich fire dispatching agreement. Chief, is this you?
I'll speak to it. Absolutely. The clerks put it together through the clerks from the city of Goderich. So 2019, town of Goderich reached out. They were looking for some full-time fire dispatching services instead of just backup dispatching that we provided previously. And over the last year, they've been very happy with that. They've reached out looking to extend that agreement for another year. And we've, through the clerks of the town of Goderich and the city of Stratford, they put this together. And today we're here seeking approval for that extension and for the mayor and city clerk to execute that agreement if it goes through.
Are there any questions? Councillor Gaffney?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Do we provide this service to other jurisdictions as well, or is this a one-off?
No, we provide to approximately 20 other fire departments spread out in various municipalities in Perth County and Huron County.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Councillor Burback?
I remember last year there was some discussion about possibly upgrading the dispatch equipment. Is there any news on that?
So that's something we've been working towards for some time. The next generation 911 requirements set out there are very specific upgrades that have to be in place by June of 2024. And that's something staff is working towards, has been and will be over the next couple of years.
Great, thank you. So we do have I believe, a recommendation moved by Councillor Burback. All in favor? And that's carried. And so moving on to item number 6, which is the capital project update. It was circulated with the agenda. It was circulated and it's also in the eScribe agenda. Mr. Jolovic, do you want to go just briefly some highlights, because there's a lot.
I just want to focus in some highlights. I mean, we are, on the capital side, we're focusing in on finishing up projects. So talk about Alone Avenue, it's pretty well done. There's the issue that we're having right now is getting the resumption of home delivery to the mailboxes on the road. A couple of deficiencies were brought to our attention from Canada Post. We've dealt with one. There's a few more that there's another one that they've identified with some mailboxes, so they're getting them moved. We're hoping to have that done within the week or so that they can resume the home delivery there of mail. Erie Street sidewalk, the contractor has finally got the permit from the rail authority to finish off that last section. They had to, the rail authority finally contacted them, set up training for them, for their staff to work around that rail line. Once that training was done, they got their permit, and they want to get that done over the next couple of days or early next week to get that work done with that sidewalk crossing there, because that's the only piece that was missing there. Downtown traffic study, talked to the consultant. We're looking at a January presentation to committee. Redford Crescent, the curb is in, the base asphalt has been put in. They're still working on the sidewalk. They too hope to be done early next week with the last of the sidewalk installation there and driveways. However, the landscaping restoration won't be done until the spring of next year. Huron Street design is underway for that project. And one other study that looking to have a presentation in either January or February, talk to consultant, is the long-term liability study for the landfill. I know Councillor Vasilakos, you've been asking about that, but that will be coming forward on that. We'll get that finalized and there'll be a presentation on that. So, and then the last thing, just from an operations point of view, we've had a couple of tests already with the winter. And as we've started, we'll continue advising council as well as Mike Bites to put on the city's website or Facebook what we've been doing with respect to responding to the winter storm. So winter is here, unfortunately. So we've had a couple of test runs, and so far things are going well. Just some minor hiccups, but other than that, it's going well. And I think, as I noted in the highlights, we also have a new routing map that we will also be putting on the city's website for people to see, so they know what our priority roads are and what will be done first and where they sit in the priority of roads getting cleared. So if there's any questions?
Any questions? Councillor Burbach, then Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's excellent, having that map and that information for people, because that is a huge question that we get as councillors, and it's hard to answer. So something visual that people can come back to and refer to is really great. So thanks for that. I did have a question about the Huron Street. I know that I think all of us here were on the tender review, and I'm just curious about the intersection at Douglas, where it comes into Huron and TJ Dolan. Is that going to be reconfigured somehow? Possibly to make it
the project start. Yeah, sorry, that's where the project starts. The consultant is looking at various options. I haven't seen anything from a draft design perspective. I mean, they're looking at everything. They're looking to see, can we go to a 3-lane cross section with a center lane turning lane and things like that. So they're just seeing what they can fit in and what can be done. So they're looking at all various options right now.
Yeah, it's a tricky corner. It's just safety wise. I use that intersection a lot as a pedestrian, as a cyclist, as a driver.
Yeah,
it's problematic. So I'm really looking forward to it being redone and having it be configured perhaps a little differently to make it a little.
Oh, we'll see what the consultant has. So haven't seen any preliminary design drawings yet.
I would love to see TJ Dolan, that alley laneway behind the houses on Douglas, to be one way. I think that would really help things a lot, but that's just my uneducated engineering, I'd love to ride a bike there kind of perspective.
Okay, thanks for that input.
Councillor Gaffney.
Thank you. A couple of things on Olone Ave and at the bridge at the Country Club. A lot of overhead wire signs have been left up. If the contractor could come and clean them up.
Yeah, on the street, yes.
Another thing is the landfill study that's coming up. When I was last on council, and I think Kathy and Jody remember this, to put the stormwater management ponds in at Lauren Ave and Romeo, the owner required us to buy the whole property, which now includes the property that the autonomous stuff is set up. At the time when the city bought that property for the stormwater management ponds, one of the discussions we had at the time is to, I guess, to justify buying the whole piece of property, is that sometime in the future we might look at putting a cell for the dump the waste station on that property. I don't know if that's still part of the discussion or if that is even even if that's even viable, I don't know.
Yeah, we're probably still got about 25 years of life left in the landfill, thereabouts, in, plus or minus a year. It's been, I've been saying that for the last few years, but I think it's gone down, the life's gone down a bit. We've used up some of it, but we're diverting material. So it's all depending on that. So as you decrease your waste, you're extending the life of the landfill. Unfortunately, to site a new landfill, it probably takes a good 5 to 7 years to do. And you can't presuppose any spot. There's all kinds of criteria when you go through it. What's interesting, as we're going through the liability issue, the consultant has experience. He suggested, well, you may want to look in the future. Will the province allow you to go higher? Because right now we're at a certain height. Can you add to that and make it? They've done that at other landfills, and sometimes that's a lot easier to do than to try and site a new landfill. And so we're still a ways away before that process would start. Probably about 15 years from now, the city will have to seriously look at retaining consultants and all that. Start looking for a new landfill site. Don't know what the political landscape will be like then, but we continue to do everything we can to divert waste from the landfill. And matter of fact, staff are working on a report with respect to mattresses, because they're a challenge when they bring in mattresses into the landfill. So you'll see something coming, if not December, then in the new year on that. So we're continuing looking for opportunities to divert from that landfill and extend that life.
Thank you.
So actually, something tweaked me. So if we were looking for expansion of a landfill, have the provincial regulations changed now that any adjacent municipality would have the right to refuse? Like, could that impact a municipal landfill site on municipal owned property? Does that extend? Is that only for private landfills, or does it include any landfill expansion?
My understanding is that just approved to any landfill that, whether it's municipal or private, that neighboring municipalities, if it's within so many kilometers of their boundary, would have say. So that if that doesn't change between now and when we have to look, that could have some impacts on the ability to locate a landfill within Stratford. Or it may even have an impact on the expansion of the, let's say, going higher on our existing ones. So, but as I say, the legislation is always changing. So the rules 15 years from now may be considerably different than what they are today.
And so you had said, and I think you mentioned bringing the two reports. There's a landfill and the downtown traffic study. Will you bring those directly to committee? I know they can come to subcommittee, but I think some of those bigger ones, it is good to bring them to committee where all of council can see them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I will be working with clerks on what the best way to do that presentation. I agree. I mean, some of those have a significant impact. I think the downtown traffic study will be a good one for all of council to see the presentation and what the consultant found, and just to say the traffic volumes were done in 2019, not 2020. So we're talking normal tourist season type traffic counts and things like that. So.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're on mute, Kathy.
My other screen, I have to get the cursor back onto this screen before I can use the space bar. My apologies, everyone. So we have item number 7, which is advisory committee outside board minutes, and we don't have any. And next subcommittee meeting will be, Councillor Burbach, did you have something?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did actually have a question about the, somebody was asking about the Energy and Environment Committee meeting minutes and where those might be at as far as, so I know they come through this subcommittee. So I said I would ask as to where they are at.
I believe the city clerk could answer, but or the clerk secretary, but I believe once they're passed, they make their way to us.
Okay. And I did have a couple of other items. Is this a good moment?
Sure. It's as good as any. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Because we don't officially have like a new business section on our agenda. So
this is fine.
okay, thank you. So a resident sent an email through about the corner of Romeo and Devon. Just a safety issue for pedestrians trying to get across. So that Devon, obviously when people are coming down Devon and they want to cross Romeo, they're going over to the park. So there's a lot of pedestrian foot traffic there and they find it to be very dangerous. So I'm wondering if that's something we could look at.
Through the chair, yes, I'm well aware of it and well aware of it personally as I walk in that area in the good weather quite often. And so what we would have to do, and we would have to look at it, and some people say, why do you need to do this study? Well, what we would need to do a study for is traffic volume, pedestrian volume, and as to what type of a crossing we would have to put in there. So it could be similar to the one that we did in Foreman, the yellow flashing lights. However, depending on the traffic volume and pedestrian volume, we may actually have to go with the traffic signal that we did on Huron Street. So that's the differentiation. I would think because of the not knowing, I would think it'd be like what we did on Huron Street. That when you look at the volumes, I consider that to be much safer to do. You also have to look at sight lines because you are coming down a hill. So what would that look like? So there's a number of things that we would have to consider. If it does meet the warrants, and make sure you put in the proper signal at that crossing, so that it's done safely for the pedestrians to use. So staff is aware of it. So we would want to do that in the summertime because that's when you will see the greatest volumes for pedestrians.
Right. So do we need a motion for that? I'll just leave it with Ed and.
I've already lined that up with staff.
Okay.
Who's done the letter? That's something that I know I'm gone next year, but I always said we need to do this next year. So it's on the list.
Okay, and I did have one other question, and actually a couple people along Foreman have contacted me. It's not actually about safety, but I didn't really know where else to ask it. There's a lot of litter along Foreman between Huron Street and the school. So kids going to have lunch, they can't eat in the cafeteria anymore. So there's a lot of kids, a lot of foot traffic along there, and quite a lot of litter. So a couple of homeowners have rightfully so complained about that. And I actually was driving along there 2 days ago, and it occurred to me that there is a church along the side where it has a sidewalk, and there's a set of mailboxes there. Is there any way that we could put in some trash cans or a recycle bin and a trash can set up along that stretch to at least, so there's something?
Through the chair, yes. So we'll have a look. We'll see what we have available. I'll talk to staff on that to see if we can get them in a couple of strategic spots along there.
That would be.
Was there any particular area they were seeing a lot of waste, or?
Well, the person who was complaining actually lives right at the corner of Hibernia and Foreman.
Okay.
So there's a crosswalk right there with a crossing guard, but she said she's a corner property. It was a bit of a problem before, but now it's a really big problem. It seems
Just have to see what we have. Yeah.
There's more kids too, right? So
I would say the garbage it sort of picks up because they pick up food and they dump it. I would say that first third on. I know it's strange, but I seem to recall that it's sort of like that first third along Foreman, where the kids get their food, they eat it, and then they're done with the food, and they're not going to carry it to the rest of the school. I think that the amount of garbage as you get closer to the school or get sort of halfway, it goes down.
So closer to Huron then.
But yeah,
we'll have to look for some spots there.
we'd really appreciate that, and then I'll bring it up with the principal as well.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Gaffney?
Yeah, my apologies. I was actually going to say that we should reach out to the two principals over there, because it'd be the same with St. Mike's, I expect. So, thanks.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. So next subcommittee meeting will be December 30th at 3:30. So I'm not sure that that's going to happen. It is listed here, but I think I would think that it looks to me as if it's staff and council's a desire to skip that meeting and bring anything that might be really important to a council meeting instead, or to committee. Okay. So we'll see you next year, everyone. Great. So motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Gaffney. All in favor? Thank you very much, everyone.